to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
Welcome to the Brad and John Show. We would never say BJ Show here on the airwaves of NPR. We would never refer to it as the BJ Experience. We would just refer to it as BJ Show because here on NPR, we are sophisticated, we are very much upper crust, and we're very much full of ourselves. John Combest, wouldn't you agree with that?
I love your Elaine Cha voice, Brad. But I must say, I should dispatch you to the offices of St. Louis Public Radio for another lesson because I don't feel you're soft enough.
I'm
as
not
I have learned, Brad.
Okay. That is John
You
Combest.
started this, Brad, for the record. You started this today. So let's just establish that.
I think I am going to eliminate that out of the podcast. That is John Combest. John is the guy who every single day he puts together a list and he's checking it twice and he's going to find out who's naughty and nice. You know, we can almost say that. It's almost, matter of fact, if you go in the stores, you know it's almost Christmas. You know what I mean? It's because all the Christmas stuff has been there for 2 months now. Anyway, John puts together this list every single day and sometimes 20, 30, 40 things. It's like a old Drudge Report kind of thing where it's like the Drudge Report for Missouri. And we've talked about that before. Would that probably be the best way to describe it?
Quite a compliment. Thank you, Brad.
The Drudge Report for Missouri. And what he does is he puts this thing together, and it's not fancy. You go to his website, JOHNCOMBEST.com. You go to there, and it's just links. If you see something of interest, he's got like a little synopsis. You click on that link, bang, it takes you wherever you're going. Like could be to STL NPR, it could be to Missouri Independent, it could be to Tony of Kansas City, who is a good source for John and sounds like a great guy. You've talked to him before then, right? You've talked to him on the phone?
Yeah, I go way back with Tony Bateo. Yeah, Tony'sKansasCity.com.
Do you ever met him personally?
I haven't met him in person. No, we've never met.
Interesting. But, I mean, you refer to him a lot. He must really be doing some work in Kansas City because he does a lot of scoop stuff there, doesn't he?
He has done. So, first of all, he has done work since 2005, and he reports on so many stories that mainstream media ignores or misses. And he has comments in this area, too. So he's become quite a discussion hub for kind of the political cognoscenti, the intelligentsia, I guess you would say, and people who follow the stuff closely. Yeah, so big shout out to Tony's Kansas City.
I don't know if this is true or not. I've heard a nasty rumor that Tony of Kansas City got bought by Lee Enterprises, and they're going to move his podcast to Columbia. Is that true? Is that?
And then they're going to ship. Actually, the HTML is going to get shipped by truck. But Tony's whole plan was that he wanted to increase his carbon footprint. He wants to be the first carbon positive blog in the state of Missouri, which I take offense to because I have tried to use a lot of CFCs and a lot of incandescent light bulbs in an attempt to be the worst environmentally friendly blogger. So I don't know, maybe friendly competition there.
So John, if he could go back to R12 and his air conditioning system at his house, he'd go back to R12, right?
I absolutely would. And then you know what? But if I needed electrical, I'd call Caleb Hunter, but he couldn't listen to us on the radio when he got here. But that's a different story, Brad.
Dig. Anyway, we start up the show with this guy.
I'm Casey Kasem.
He does this countdown thing.
Now on with the countdown.
And we start with...
In third place.
If you would have listened closely, Brad, open your ears on Monday. You might have heard someone channeling the great Ric Flair in an interview with WCW honcho Eric Bischoff when Flair said, "Fire me. I'm already fired. Fire me. I'm already fired." Can you get fired twice from the same job? Well, Keisha Scarlett did, Brad. And on Monday, St. Louis Public Schools decided to officially part ways with Keisha Scarlett, the former St. Louis Public Schools superintendent. Now, to be clear, they parted ways with her a while back, but she appealed that firing, Brad. And on Monday, the St. Louis Public Schools Board upheld the firing. And, as you might expect, Brad, Keisha Scarlett is suing for wrongful termination. the main point here is her attorney says, and her attorney's main objective is that Keisha Scarlett was blocked from asking any public school board member, employee, parent, or student to serve as a witness on her behalf. And what her attorney says is kind of ominous, which is when we do sue for wrongful termination, all the facts will be brought up, all the evidence we need, that a lot of bad stuff was going on before Miss Scarlett got here. She's been working tirelessly to fix it. And here's the metaphor that I know you'll love, Brad. Her attorney is named Sherry Colvis of Atlanta. And the quote is, "The board chose to place the blame for long-standing problems at the feet of a superintendent who was willing to rush into the burning building and try to put out the flames." Keisha Scarlett, firefighter, Brad. It's wonderful imagery here.
John, you're mistaken, because she's not represented by an attorney from Atlanta. She has a team of attorneys from Seattle, and the problem is when they got here, they filed their briefs in St. Louis City courts, and the clerk said, "Are you guys, a member of the bar in the state of Missouri?" And they said, "Well, no, of course not." "Well, then get out of here." So that's how she ended up.
This piece is brought to us, I should mention, too, by Blythe Bernard of the Post-Dispatch. And Brad, to your point about Seattle, and the regular listeners will probably remember that Keisha Scarlett brought in a lot of her friends from the Seattle area. Some of these friends set up LLCs for, quote, consulting, and then Keisha could kick them some cash. And if it was under a certain threshold, then the board did not have to approve the, kind of side deal that they have going on. But Blythe Bernard points out that three Seattle transplants remain with St. Louis Public Schools, chief of schools, and including the interim Superintendent Millicent Bordeshade, who, as you recall, Brad, is not technically certified to be a superintendent, but she's totally working on it, and she's going to take Keisha's spot. And I would also point out, too, that what I love about this, that the school board met at the offices of the official St. Louis Public Schools law firm, which is called Mix O'Toole. Could you think of a better Irish name than Mix O'Toole, Brad?
Well, John, was it yesterday or the day before when there was a story that I heard on another radio station where they have parked several of the St. Louis buses, the buses that were contracted by the city schools, because they didn't pass safety inspection. Now, John,
yeah,
which
can't be legal, correct?
Well, I told you the story that I've seen this. Not in the city and county. I've seen essentially a couple of these vans. I saw one the other day at a QT that, they have this sticker on it that says SLPS, student transportation, and stuff like that. They've got stickers, or I guess they're maybe like magnetic signs. And I'm a license plate guy, and I had temporary plates on it, and the temporary plates were expired. And I'm going like, man, now here we go again. Okay. What do you think a school bus costs? And we're not talking one of these, EV ones, Kamala Harris.
Would you guess like $120?
Okay, we're gonna take a little thing here. Okay, I'm gonna put in how much
does an average school bus cost?
An average school bus cost. Okay, you say 120, okay?
Yeah, I think that's about fair.
Okay, well, she paid school wrong. We correct that. Somebody's already got the answer because they've got Alexa, and we're ready. Right? I used to have Alexa in the studio, and the problem was she kept interrupting me. Okay. The electric buses are between $230,000 and $250,000.
Yeah.
Buses typically, no, that's not right. It says between how much to buy a brand new school bus. Well, that's in England. It's $300,000. How much does a battery cost? How much does a school bus cost in Virginia? Let's look at that. No, they're all electric. What's this crap with all this electric? Okay, let's say on the high side, somebody just texted me.
What would you have guessed, Brad? What would your guess have been?
$175,000. Okay.
I can see that.
Okay. The city of St. Louis has the Rams money, and they still have the the ARPA money, is that what they call it? It was ARPA money. Okay, can't the mayor just emergency go to the alderman and say, you know what, we got this problem in city schools. We're going to help those school people out. I say we make an emergency withdrawal from the Rams account, the ARPA account, for $10 million, and let's say each school bus is $200,000. So we buy. How many would they give you? We buy what? $1 million would buy you 5 school buses at $200,000 a piece, right?
That makes sense.
And if you had $10 million, it would buy you 50 mil. It would buy you 50 school buses. Why don't they do that? I don't get this. I mean, and once again, here's the interesting thing for me. You can call up your buddy Jack Cardetti and say, "Hey Jack, you're pushing this gambling thing. Any of that money go and buy school buses for the city of St. Louis? Tell us how many school buses that the first year of gambling is going to buy for the city of St. Louis, because they need some school buses." And it was, what his answer would be, John?
Blackjack for buses.
No, his answer would be, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, and
it might be.
Right, that would be his answer, because he wouldn't answer that question, because, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't get this. I mean, government drives me nuts. I get there's procedures you have to go through, but you know what? Once again, as Shelley used to say, when the defecation hits the rotary oscillator, you take care of business. You maybe break a few rules, you bend a few rules. If there's a problem, here we go again. We're going to, if Shelley's listening, I said, if there's a problem, what do you do, John?
I'll solve it. Check out the hook while DJ revolves it. Deshay was actually the name of his DJ. So people often think that every time he says DJ, but in the third verse he says, check out the hook while Deshay revolves it. So most white people get that wrong, because you know how crackers are. By the way, Brad, to answer your question, I know we're getting short on time already, but Tishaura Jones can't do that because she's in Mexico this week.
Oh, what's she doing there?
There's a very important conference going on, Brad.
Oh, I heard she's going down to look at the new printing plant for the Post-Dispatch in Mexico.
Yeah, it'll be there in 2 years, I think.
That's right. Okay, moving along.
Up a notch to number 2.
Your friend and mine, Mike Elam, was guest hosting the Annie Fry Show this week, Brad. This interview actually took place on Monday, but I missed it. I'm human. So I linked to it this morning on my website. Mike Elam had 2 guests on. First of all, he had Scott Faughn from the Missouri Times on, and Scott talked about, state Senate races, a little bit of the state overview. And then Mike Elam also had incoming governor, I guess technically we still have to say governor candidate, Mike Kehoe on. And the one impressive nugget, I think, from Mike Kehoe's rap, so to speak, was Mike Kehoe was talking about state income tax, and he was talking about his top priorities. Kehoe pointed out that the state income tax has dropped from 6% to 4.7% over the last few years. And Mike Kehoe says that he would like to see that number, Brad, go down to 0.
I agree.
I know, right? So this is the time, Brad, when candidates are out there making promises. We need to look back at this in October of 25 and 26 and 27 and say, hey, I remember when Mike Kehoe said he was for 0 income tax. Has he been pushing legislators to do it? So it'll be one of those accountability things. Anyway, you know Mike Elam very well. He did a great job on here. He did a great job with Scott Faughn. They had a great conversation. And he's close with Kehoe. He's emceed some events for Kehoe. He emceed Kehoe's primary victory party back in August in the Jeff City area. So it's worth listening to.
The interesting thing with Mike Elam is that, well, by the way, he's got more competition with 2026. I don't know if you know about this, but in the second block, in B block here, I will give you the latest Bill Eigel update, because you had one, was it yesterday or the day before, the Bill Eigel where he's now...
Yeah, it was yesterday we talked about it, yeah.
There's another Bill Eigel update. Well, I'll start off a B block with, okay? And last but not least...
The number 1...
Top story today is brought to us by Bryce Gray of the Post-Dispatch. The headline is, Boeing expects, quote, substantial, unquote, losses in its defense work. That could hurt St. Louis jobs. The long and short of it, Brad, is that Boeing is hurting. Specifically, its defense division has been wildly underperforming, and it will mean job cuts in the St. Louis area. Now, the company is not laying out exactly how many jobs are going to be cut here, what's going to be affected here in the St. Louis area. But to cut to the chase, if you scroll down in the Post-Dispatch story, we get to the real kicker. Because Bryce Gray talks to a gentleman who's been following this company for a long time, a guy named Lauren Thomas, a long-space aerospace analyst. Is how Bryce Gray describes him. And Thompson says that what he expects to happen after all this is that, quote, a Boeing recovery will require some kind of federal support, like other industrial giants such as General Motors have received in the past. That quote is from Bryce Gray. It's not a direct quote from Thompson, but Thompson says that the feds are going to have to come in and give a little bit of money to Boeing if they want to stay afloat.
Okay, now, I know you're not a union guy. You've never been in any union, correct?
I have not, no.
What do you, maybe we'll talk about this more in the B block, but don't you think that the machinists or whoever the guys are they're striking right now, the sheet metal
in
workers.
In Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, IAM, whatever. Don't you think they're being a little bit BS about going on strike now? You know what I'm saying?
No, I think that they're doing it to hurt the company as much as they can.
But why? But see, I don't understand this mentality. The word you just said, they're union. They get their paychecks from Boeing. Why would you want to hurt the hand that feeds you? I don't understand that. I'll never understand that.
Yeah, I would just presume, and based on like what we just saw with like what this Thompson guy says, so if you think there's a possibility that the government could come in and give Boeing a ton of money, why not? I mean, you're not hurting the company. If the company's going to have to get bailed out, if you're a union, you're going to get paid anyway. If I'm a union boss, I want to strike at the time where the company is doing terrible, where the company's under a ton of pressure and really hurting. I'm not saying it's right, Brad. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's when you would want to exert the maximum amount of pressure.
See, that's my problem. My problem is, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but through my years in business, I've seen other business, that are struggling, things like that. And I'm not going to tell how many times I've done this. I've gone to some businesses and said, you know what? I think that I see things are not going well for you. How can I run some ads for you and maybe get you some more business? And they go, well, I can't afford it. No, you missed what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm going to run some ads for you. I'm not expecting anything in return. I'm trying to help you out. See, that's my mindset. When somebody, like perfect example, there was a Ray Kroc, the quote-unquote founder of McDonald's. Matter of fact, if you want to see an interesting movie that really shows the true Ray Kroc, go watch the movie The Founder. You ever seen that movie? Of course
no,
not,
I haven't.
Right? Okay. He used to do a lot of college tours, and he used to talk to college kids a lot. And one of the questions was, if one of your competitors was having trouble, would you help them? And he says, let me tell you this. He says, if one of my competitors were drowning, I put a hose in their mouth and turn the faucet on. Okay? So, once again, I'm not wired that way. I don't get that mentality. That's why I don't get the mentality of when Boeing is having problems, the union strikes. It's, if anything, the union bosses should show up in the CEO's office and say, you know what, boss, we know things are tough. You know what? We're our union boys. We're going to rally and we're going to knock out those planes ever faster. And matter of fact, we're going to make sure that every stinking rivet and every stinking bolt and every stinking connection is made perfectly. We're going to turn this company around, you and me. Instead, no, we're not going to do anything. We hope you have financial trouble. I don't understand that mentality. I never will.
I don't either. You know what? You stick a water hose in their mouth. But according to you, another radio station owner in St. Louis has spent the last couple of years sucking on an air hose. Those are your words, not mine, Brad. You said she really blew up. I love how we started with an Elaine Cha voice and we end with a tough union guy voice.
I have quite a range. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?